What's up? It's Shakti Seer here. Shout out to my YouTube subscribers and everybody who's been following me throughout the years. This isn't going to be a video about Buddhism or any meditation and the stuff that I usually get into. I can do that later, and I plan to get more involved in it and talk about, what I've been doing the last couple months and years and stuff. But this is going to be a video specifically about what is the alt-right. Now, why am I making a video about that? Well, that ties into what I've been doing for the last couple years. I'll make just a long story short. I've been a part of the core kind of like group of people that have made up the alt-right for a good 6 years or so now, and a lot of them are my good friends. I know a lot of the big name people that you might have heard about from Charlottesville. Not necessarily too close with a lot of them, but like I've been in their circles, and I know a lot of people who make up the core of the alt-right, what it's called now. So I wanted to make a video just clearing up some confusion that I see, especially from the media or from people on Twitter that might like a meme of like Pepe or whatnot, or people that might be harboring some opinions and beliefs that they don't know what to do with. They don't know how to quarantine off in their head, how to accept things that they're coming to terms with. There's a whole lot of people who are confused about what this term means, and so me, as being a part of this like group for a long time, I wanted to try to delve into what this shit actually means, because I've yet to hear a coherent definition from people who are outside of it. To a lot of people, when you hear the term alt-right, and this is important, and there's a reason why you should think about this. This is a legit, like, important social phenomenon going on right now, especially as the way that cyberspace and new media is defining, the world. It's an important cultural phenomenon. It's something that we should talk about. So I feel like I'm in a really good position to talk about it, and so I'm going to talk about it. When you first hear the term alt-right, people think KKK, skinheads, Stormfront.org, this kind of thing. And that's not entirely true. In fact, it isn't even really comparable to what the alt-right has become and what it started out as. So I'm not going to get into the complexities of. I'm going to try to go back as far as I can to try to trace the origins of what we call the alt-right and how it became what it is. I'm not going to get into the complexities of American culture and how that different cultures have always been fighting each other, whites and blacks, Irish and Italian, take your pick. Throughout history, the United States has had a big problem, and eventually, in a lot of ways succeeded in handling different ethnic groups. But it's always had, even back in the day, there were gangs, there were fights, and there's, all this kind of like tension and stuff. So that kind of led up to a boiling point, which I don't think was, there's lots of boiling points, but I don't think it was something that was holistically made. I'm talking a lot about American history, but I want to segue kind of into the point at which I will really define where you can see the rise of the tendencies, which I view as having been the harbinger of something which would rear its head as what we now call the alt-right, and that's the extremist movements of the 60s from the left. If you haven't heard of Yuri Bezmenov, you need to look into him. Yuribez Menov, Menov. You need to check out Yuri Bezmenov and see what he says about ideological subversion of a society. He's a former KGB agent, and he basically says that what happened was, the best way to fight your enemy is not to fight them at all. That's the most dumb way to fight your enemy. The best way to fight your enemy is to subvert them from the inside. And so that's why you find a lot of this stuff that happened in the 60s that was so sketchy. Like, you have kids that were paid to go to Cuba to learn about socialism, and bring it back to America. You had the USSR financing dissident groups in America. Do you think they cared about do you think the communists care about black nationalism or about feminism? No, they don't care about any of that. They used it as a tool to ideologically subvert the traditional values of the country. And I know that that sounds cliche to talk about tradition and whatnot, but I see it as more of a continuation in the long scheme of things of a type of ideological subversion which has been going on for a long time. You look back to the Jacobins. You look back to the American and French revolutions. They were useful idiots, just like the Black Panthers or the extreme feminists of the 60s were useful idiots. I feel that there were groups like the Freemasons who genuinely felt like that they were creating a new society or a new world order where everyone is equal, where they had to use these revolutions to undermine the existing authorities. In France, they undermined the power of the king. In America, they undermined the power of the British Empire. And they're installing their own people in positions of power to pave the way for this kind of like Plato's Republic, where the ignorant masses would be dominated by these enlightened philosopher kings. And if you look at the think tanks like the Trilateral Commission and these groups, that's how they think. They think that they're the enlightened rulers that need to lord it over and dominate the masses. So I feel like the ideological subversion, which was coming from a lot of different directions. You can talk about cultural Marxism and the Frankfurt School and the Long March to the institutions. You can talk about the USSR and people like Yuri Bezmenov, who was working for the KGB to subvert America ideologically. You can talk about a lot of examples like this of where the old order is being upended by useful idiots like the Black Panthers, the feminist extremists, the communists, the Jacobins, the French Revolution people. These are all useful idiots being used by some unseen force which I don't understand or know what's really going on behind the scenes. Who knows who's really up to their tricks and is scheming to do what. But these useful idiots have been undermining the institutions of the West, and now they're going after the East and other places in order to pave the way for a global unified government. So going back to what I was saying about the 60s and 70s, they realized that they were going to see economic type of communist revolution like they had in Russia. So what they did was they created this thing called cultural Marxism. So it's like a form of Marxism where everything is equal. When you put it in the cultural context of America, it's like they look at Europeans as being the bourgeoisie who are oppressing the minorities, and so in order to make everything equal, the minorities need to rise up and crush the bourgeoisie. And so that was a mentality that was prevalent for a long time in the 60s, and that's still really going strong as a meme, as a cultural kind of idea nowadays, with what you guys have probably seen before, the social justice warriors. And that's where this ties into the alt-right. So we have the rise of these radical groups in the West. For the feminists, the bourgeoisie is the patriarchy. For the blacks, the bourgeoisie are the white people, etc., down the list of groups that have been subverted to try to destroy or dissolve the strengths of the tradition of the American Republican way of life, which stands in the way of this global government from being formed. You've seen it happen in Europe. It was a lot easier in Europe because of the guilt of post-World War II and what happened there, especially in Germany. So there's this extreme, this narrative being pushed. Back then, it wasn't even as bad as it is now. And I hate to be jumping all over the place, but it's hard to really make a coherent narrative without going through different periods of history. So now what we have is, I'm sure you guys have all seen it. You see news articles that say that European people are going to be in a minority in their own countries. They're saying that that European people in Europe need to take in millions of unvetted, young males from North Africa and the Middle East into their country and pay them welfare, and there's nothing that they can really do about it. And even the cultural subversion and the guilt that's been placed upon the people like Germans has gotten so deep that they willingly they take their own destruction and see it as just recompense for what's happened in the past. Like kind of the same things happening like in Sweden, which is becoming the rape capital of Europe because of people who are from a foreign land that don't have anything to do with the culture of a country like Sweden. It's just absolutely absurd. So and it's chauvinistic even to ask them to assimilate into Western values. Who are you to tell them that their society is wrong? They can go and be themselves in their own countries, and that's fine. But the reason why that I laid this all out before I talked about the alt-right is because this is the background of what the alt-right's seen, what it's come up in, what it's rebelling against, and that ties into what it stands for. So, getting into modern history, it's kind of funny. The neocons actually, there was a speech that I watched, or a lecture, by a gentleman who wrote a book about the history of neoconservatism, and he said that the first wave of neocons were actually New York City liberals who New York City liberals in like the 60s who were rebelling against the extremist type leftism that was prevalent at the time. And so you could say that the neocons began as a type of alt-right in their own right in the very beginning, and of course they morphed into something completely different, and that's neither here nor there. But talking about contemporary history and where this all came from, okay, so you have all this going on in the background, and it's really bad now. Like, you can't turn on the damn news or go to Google News or go to any friggin' CNN, turn on CNN or anything without this like prominent anti-European narrative being forced down people's throat. Like, look what they did to Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman. Like, and this is what I trace back to as being like the real beginning of what kind of consolidated into the modern nexus of the alt-right, is that Zimmerman case. They turned a Hispanic Jewish guy, George Zimmerman, they turned a Hispanic Jewish guy into a white man and set up this whole white versus black narrative so that they could, and the end result was all these riots and chaos and just insanity and hatred being left upon the police and upon, it forced people to take sides, this classic like divide and conquer strategy. But you can't help but see this stuff in the news and be like what the fuck are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? And kind of react against it. So, a lot of us, I'm older than a lot of the younger people in the alt-right. The alt-right, I would say, is between like anywhere, 17, 18 up to 30, a little bit older. They're millennials and a couple Gen Zers. But we grew up, like, I'm a quarter Hispanic. You can probably tell from my fucking mustache, right? I'm a quarter Hispanic. I'm 3/4 white. And I grew up when I was even in high school, like, not bullied, but made to feel like, oh, white people are lame and white people have. And that's been a thing for a long time, like ever since the rebellion of the 60s against their parents, these baby boomers who wanted to act all edgy and shit when they were being ideologically subverted literally by the KGB. Like, it was literal cultural communism that they were doing. So it's been a long time coming where this kind of divide has been created, and people pointing fingers at at the bourgeois or at the Europeans of society. So back to my experience, like in high school, I always grew up with people, I'm from the Bay Area, I'm from Silicon Valley, and I never had a respect and a pride in the Western culture and what it's given me. And I kind of just took it at face value, like a lot of these kids that run around with masks on and have their daddy's trust fund and drink at Starbucks. They just take it for face value. They don't really appreciate it. And I always was like that. And I was always told, European people have no culture. They're lame. They're not cool. They're hip. And I have nothing against this, but I love rap, hip hop. The rap's cool, hip hop's cool. Black people are cool. They can dance. They can do this and that. But when you get a little bit older and you talk about what's cool or not, you think about like what's cool is having a family and giving some to your children, giving some to your offspring. That's cool. And you look at black people in general; they're failing in that department. So it's such a short-sightedness and such a almost like a jealousy for the fact that certain groups exceed better than others, like Asians exceed better than Europeans, or Jewish people will succeed better than most people. It's kind of like a jealousy towards the bourgeois, in the same sense as it was a jealousy of the proletariat towards the bourgeois and communism that led them to be overthrown. So they got the bourgeois of the West, as I'll call it, the cultural bourgeois, are being heaped. We have all this like shit heaped on us, and people talk about white privilege and stuff as if like you're just the skin that you're born with gives you an upper hand in life just because that's the way that it is. Nah, this is a European founded country, so of course, people who are, descendants of the people that formed the country are gonna be better integrated into it, or, to have a better shot at things. So I'm going off on a tangent here, which I'm not trying to do because I want to get at my real core question of what is the alt-right. So growing up like that, and I'm not saying that minorities don't have every opportunity, actually, because whites are so self-effacing, things like affirmative action or how much of a score that you have to get in your GED to get into college have actually been weighted in this ridiculous way to favor disadvantaged populations, and we can make other videos about what that fucking means. But I want to talk about how the alt-right started, and with all that in the background, I want to say that, first of all, the alt-right started on 4chan, period, point blank, end of story. All the cultural influences and shit that were going on around it, that was background noise. But it started on 4chan, period. When you talk about Pepe memes and words like cuck and just the general nexus, the hive mind of ideas and shit posting and being funny and the humor and the in-jokes, all that's from 4chan. If you don't get that, you're a fucking new friend and you totally fucking don't understand what the fuck you're even involved in. So it coalesced it started as 4chan, which is really interesting. And I want to say also, because these are like similar time periods, around 2008, 2009, when 4chan was a big thing, just starting, then that's when you had the, like, my personal opinion, like the YouTube conspiracy side, where there was all these people making like videos about conspiracies on YouTube with the Illuminati and the Masons. And so it was just a general distrust of authority and of the way that the world has been taught to us by the government mandated schools and stuff that, keep us pumped with fluoride and shit. So, figuratively, possibly literally, I don't know. But so that whole thing was coming out with people challenging the cultural narratives about the way that society works on YouTube. And of course, there's also this stuff about aliens and chakras and meditation. That's where I started getting into my stuff with meditation and stuff, was through this like conspiracy side of YouTube. Kind of I don't like the term paranormal, but maybe esoteric type stuff with all these secret societies and who knows what. And so this kind of like segued into a group of people on the internet kind of forming and questioning the government, FEMA camps, and blacklists and secret technology, and the Patriot Act didn't help, and what's the government really up to, and we're heading to this new world order, and mandates for the UN to use climate change to bring about a global government, and the market. You had a lot of Christians and stuff talking about the mark of the beast, and it was just like this big like kind of cultural movement on the internet towards viewing the people who rule us with extreme hesitation and analysis. And for me personally, I'd always gone on those like YouTube videos and comment sections and watched videos about this stuff, and made videos even, and been a part of it. But what really brought it all together for me, and I think for a lot of people, was on Facebook. I happened into a bunch of like kids who went on 4chan and shit, and I saw them posting their memes and doing their little meme language and the shit posting language and stuff, and I was like, I thought it was funny and stuff. So I would see like a meme like happymerchant.jpg. I'm sure you guys have seen it, and I'm like laughing at it, because Freemasons, a lot of them tend to be Jewish, or like yada yada yada. So it's kind of like a funny joke. And I was like, where the fuck are these memes coming from? Like I said, I had friends who were like this one circle on Facebook who were from 4chan, and I'm like, where the hell is this shit coming from? And I eventually figured out where it was all coming from, and it was from this board on 4chan called Poll. And now here we get to talk about the real beginning of what really coalesced and coagulated into the alt-right. Now, it's just weird to me that I'm even talking about this, because back in the day it was just a couple, maybe dozens of thousands of like people on Poll, maybe not even that much, maybe 20,000-30,000 people, if even that much, we had our own, like, we would discuss about different economic theories and political theories and what's going on with the Illuminati and who really runs the world, and we would post news articles and stuff like this, and we would all just come together, and like gradually there was just a big clump of us. And I know some of you guys are gonna say, yeah, Poll wasn't the beginning, it was new, it was /new, and then it went to 4chan. I know the history and shit. I got into it like 2011, like a half a year before Trayvon Martin hit. And when Trayvon Martin hit, all the other people from the other boards on 4chan came onto Poll, and we just that's when the fucking red pill manifested as a cultural meme, where everyone was on the same fucking page, about what's being done, and it became a reaction. We realized that Western culture was being undermined, and some people might want to blame it on the, them, I'm talking about, because they tend to own the media, and tend to have like a kind of self-defense mechanism to want to protect minorities and such because they're afraid of pogroms and holocausts and things like this. So in that sense, the alt-right did become a little bit anti-Semitic. Maybe a little bit is being generous. But in the same sense, it started out as a joke. Like 4chan is so open, and the humor is so harsh and lowbrow, and like just totally. The board literally is called politically incorrect. So the humor is like so just disregarding any kind of political correctness that you could say whatever you want. So that led to a discussion in terms of politics, economics, and what's going on, where everyone's anonymous. There's no banning for saying your wrong opinion. There's no, e-celebrities who have opinion like on Reddit where you have your own username and this guy has more upvotes than you think that his, reply is more valuable. No, everything's anonymous. So what got traction and what got play was ideas. So you go on there, you're funny, you got ideas, and you're being ironic, and you get a lot of you get people who want to listen to what you have to say just by the merit of what you say and not who you are or how many upvotes that you have. So I think that dynamic of poll led to people being able to explore ideas and not be afraid to talk about things which were hitherto seemed absolutely off the the ability to talk about them. So it tended towards talking about extremist rhetoric, and it was all in a way. Of course, a lot of people were just ironic and making jokes, and it kind of turned from irony into semi-not as ironic, So some people are like, you know what? Your mind starts to bend to a point where you lose the ability to really give a fuck about whether someone thinks what you're thinking is offensive or not. You just believe it for yourself, and you look at ideas and how they work, and you examine things without a goddamn care in the world given to how politically incorrect it was, hence the name of the board. So, from the beginning, the shit was like pretty much ironic memeing, just trying to have a laugh, and it kind of turned when they say that something's funny is because it's true. So when you have enough news articles and whatnot that are written by Goldbergs and Sheckelbergs that are saying that white people need to cease to exist and Europe needs to become has to cease to become a monolithic culture and stuff like that, you start to get the feeling that the West is being undermined in some way. And so enough talking and sending facts and infographics and reading books and watching videos, and your mind becomes changed from how it was before. That's what we call taking the red pill. You don't give a fuck anymore about what people think about your opinions. You just have your opinions, and I'll say this. The reason why these opinions have propagated so much is because they're strong, because they're backed with facts. A meme is like a virtual, it's like an idea just packed full of information. You can make a funny meme like Happy Merchant, and it's just encoded with, we think in terms of symbols. We think visually. We learn to think in terms of symbols. The first writing were pictographs, and shit on the walls of the caves. So you put a meme and you encode it with so much information, you send it off on social media or somewhere, and people can take that and unpack it in their minds, and they're like, wow, really, that really overrides my previous idea, which is because it was weak. Stronger ideas will always override weaker ideas. That's the basic psychological warfare. It's the basic idea behind Hermetic alchemy. If you guys remember me reading the Kabbalion like fucking fuck all many years ago, talk about the principles of mental gender, the receiver, and the willpower, which is stronger, and it inputs a stronger signal into the mind. So the alt-right is propagated like a fucking plague on the internet because it's backed by years and years of research and communication and strength of 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 releasing these unconscious pent up things that we've all been feeling into our conscious mind and allowing that bridge to form a stronger nucleus of opinion. Conscious go wild. Your unconscious is free to express itself. It doesn't have to bow to social norms and all this bullshit. So that was back. It started out as a small little circle of people, and around 2012 or so with Trayvon Martin, and then it sort of grew, and then we had Gamergate happen, where us on Pole kind of take advantage of the situation to take the people on the video games thread and red pill all these kids. So you go on any video game fucking with a voice chat and they'll be spouting off our memes all day. And that, Gamergate led to one thing, led to the next thing. Every time there was something that was going on, people would go on Poll to talk about it, and it just developed such a strong consensus. And there's so many intelligent and skillful and funny people that were able to take these political cartoons on steroids, these memes, and amalgamate them into the unconscious mind of the world, such to the point that they're forced to fucking deal with it, such to the point that you got Hillary Clinton saying on her official website during the election is really what blew up the term the alt-right. Before that, it was really just kind of Poll and our friends and shit. Then they blew up this term the alt-right, and you got your Richard Spencers and all the other fucking people, Johnny-come-latelys, that want to come along and co-opt what we did. But anyway, regardless, that force that built up on Poll and spread out to other areas. It was on Reddit and blah blah blah, but the real nexus of it was on Poll, because you went there, and if you were stupid and fucking unfunny, you would get fucking shamed off the fucking board in a second. So you really had to sharpen your wit and your intelligence and humor to even post on that board. That's why you said something stupid, they tell you to lurk more for 2 years or some shit like that, you know what I mean? So you got it to a point where these memes, which become almost like a meme if you look at Wikipedia, a meme is like a viral cultural idea. It's almost compared to a virus, that it spreads and spreads and propagates until you got the point where during the election, Hillary Clinton was saying, Pepe, that frog, it's not as innocent as you think, or whatever the fuck she said on her official website. And God, just laughing at that and laughing at it. And that's what you want to do, man. When you see people that are doing this to you, and you see the globalists that are trying to make a new world order, what's more satisfying than to piss them off so bad that you got them fucking pissing their pants over a fucking cartoon frog that you and your friends use to fucking crack jokes? How much better can it possibly be? How much more hilarious, and how much more of a just it's almost like the level of hilarity that Sauron was defeated by a little hobbit who fucking threw the ring into the fucking volcano, A little hobbit, a little 4chan shitposter came along and had fucking Hillary Clinton fucking screaming about Pepe the Frog.
The emerging racist ideology known as the alt-right.
And, it's just so fucking funny, man. And so anyway, back to the election. The election, or some people call it the Great Meme War of 2016, is when the alt-right just became so popular because there was such a profusion of ideas that really related to what people were feeling. That's why Trump won. Some people say that Trump won because of 4chan. We were definitely the cyber propaganda arm, and everybody, Steve Bannon on down, knows it. You better believe Trump knows it too. We were the cyber propaganda arm of him on the internet, and we did a big service to get him in office. We didn't get Trump elected, though. What got Trump elected with all these forces that I've been describing that have been laying dormant in the unconscious, what happened was like people started talking about this magical chaos god Kek, but what I really think that is that the unconscious forces were released. You know, that shit that's been pent up for such a long time. The average, you know, working middle class white American male or even college educated just like was like, nah, I've had enough. I'm tired of fucking being a cuck. I'm tired of being a little bitch. And you see how these words proliferate so much, like cuck. It was an in joke for the longest time. Nobody fucking knew about that shit. And then it just became such like, yeah, I know exactly what the fuck you're talking about. It's because it took over as a symbol in people's minds and it spread. And so yeah, you know, you're a fucking cuck, you know what I mean? You're advocating for someone else's interest that's not yours. Just like you're watching someone, you like watching your wife get fucked by someone else. You're a cuck. So like these people that voted for Trump, and it's not all white people, it's people who respect this Western culture, which is a English colonial culture. You can't describe it as anything other than European. I'm sorry, even if you're a civic nationalist or an ethnic nationalist or whatever kind of nationalist in America, this is a European culture here. So these people, they're tired of fucking being cucked by fucking HuffPo and fucking MSNBC and the left-wing people who have a hard-on for hating everything that makes this country great and that makes the West great. And like I said earlier, I feel that strongly that it's all part of a plan to disassemble all of the old power structures and make way for a one world government. So I see us, the way that Trump, he says we're not going to surrender to the false sign of globalism. I see us as fighting globalism. We're fighting for our very future, you know, not only as a people and as a sovereign state, but as a species. If shit goes on the way that it's going on, it's going to be like that movie Elysium with Matt Damon, where you got a bunch of rich people out in the sky in a tourist ring fucking using high technology to stay alive forever in a fucking third world war zone on the earth. You know, drastic measures need to be taken now, and that's what the alt-right does, is it looks in the future and it sees what's coming down the line, and it says, no, this shit stops here. It stops now. It stops with us. Us and Generation Z especially. We're going to be the ones to put this shit out here, and thank God for the internet to give us the ideas in our head, give us a means to communicate and work with each other, and to really allow us to organize and put a fucking boot on the neck of Hillary fucking Clinton. You know, I don't understand anybody who voted for her. You voted for globalism. You voted for the destruction of the American economy. You voted for the loss of sovereignty of the United States of America. She would have signed in TPP, TPIP, NAFTA, kept it going. We would have steadily lost our sovereignty just like Europe did. You know, you voted for Clinton, you voted for that. You voted for Trump, you voted for America. You know, fuck all the bullshit like you're acting like the average American doesn't say the exact same fucking shit that he says, because you're a social signaling fucking fart sniffing hypocrite who doesn't understand your own country that you live in. You want it to be this idealistic fucking utopia when you're really just a useful idiot being used by people that are gonna take you out to the fucking gulag and fucking line you up against the wall and shoot you as soon as you served your purpose. So, in conclusion, the alt-right, and I say this because I see so many new people coming around on places like Twitter and other social media that shit on us, that they use alt-right like it's a dirty word, because they don't understand us, and you see people on the media that do the same fucking thing. That's where it's come from. It's a holistic, nationalist, patriotic movement meant for the preservation of what's good and holy and wholesome and wonderful about our society. And to have that appear like a lotus blooming out of the mud in a society that's racked by fucking degeneracy from all angles is a real miracle, you know. And we have a lot of people on our side, and this is a serious political zeitgeist and a political movement. So before you shit on the alt-right because you want to seem like you just came along and just like you thought a fucking Pepe or a Wojak meme was funny, and then you came along and think, oh, these kids are all racist or all this or that. Really start to unpack these words and use your fucking head. I know you guys, like, especially like you fucking I'm gonna call out Base Mama on Twitter with their dumb ass with the shit she was trying to organize, thinking that she has 140 IQ and she doesn't want she took a bunch of money from people on the alt-right and their supporters to have them speak at her little like get together that she was having, and then fucking disinvited them because she didn't agree with their opinions, even though this rally is about free speech. That was really the video that pushed me to make this, because I'm like, no, I can't take it anymore. I gotta put in my 2 words, my 2 cents. So like these people, you people that come along right now that look at us and think that, you know, all of us are like fucking out here fucking like skinheads or whatever. It's not even like that. A lot of people in the alt-right aren't even white. It's people that just advocate for what I've been talking about. Making America great again. So I don't know what else to add to this. If I think of a follow-up video, I'll try to put some more out in the future. I hope this has been informational to some people. You can get me on Twitter at ShaktiPatSeer. You can comment, like, subscribe, send it to your friends, please. If you have any questions to me about anything that I said, or you want to know more about any of the topics that I'm talking about, whether it comes to the alt-right or about me making more Buddhist videos and stuff like that, you can hit me up. I'm on Discord. Just drop me a friggin' little message in the comments and I'll respond to you. Good night. Peace.